A maid's daughter helps a boy freezing in the rain. She thinks he's just a lost kid, unaware he is the missing heir to a billion-dollar fortune. For 15-year-old Kate Sullivan, the alley was just a shortcut home. Her only goal was returning with the milk her mother needed. But as the rain came down in cold, angry sheets, she heard it, a thin cry. Behind a dumpster, she found him. A small boy, curled into a ball, his lips a frightening shade of blue. Every warning her mother gave her told her to keep moving. This was not her problem, but a quiet, "I'm cold," forced a choice. She decided to help, unaware that this freezing child was the son of a billionaire and that this single act of kindness was about to change everything. And where in the world are you tuning in from today? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I hope you enjoy the video. The world is full of people who fall, and those who do not stop to look. Kate Sullivan was used to looking. From the window of her small apartment, she saw the city as a place of sharp edges, and she knew she lived right on one of them. The rain did not just fall, it attacked. It came down in cold, angry sheets, turning the streets of the city's outer district into dark, rushing rivers. The wind screamed like a kettle, throwing newspapers and trash against the brick walls of the apartment buildings. Kate Sullivan pulled the collar of her thin jacket tighter. It was not a jacket meant for this kind of weather. It was a hand-me-down, worn thin at the elbows, and it was already soaked through. She was 15. She had her mother's tired eyes and her grandfather's stubborn chin. Right now, her blonde hair was plastered to her face, dripping cold water down her back. "Just to the corner and back, Kate," her mother Sharon had said. "We're out of milk and I don't get paid until Friday." So Kate had gone. She had clutched the $3 in her pocket, navigated the broken pavement, and bought the small carton of milk from Mr. Henderson's corner store. Now, she was on her way back, cutting through the alley behind her building. It was the fastest way. The alley was a narrow canyon of brick and dumpsters. The wind was worse here, tunneling and roaring. She kept her head down, her sneakers, which also had a small, persistent hole near the toe, squelching in the puddles. That was when she heard it. It was not the wind, and it was not the rain. It was a cry. A small, thin sound, like a kitten. It was almost stolen by the storm. Kate froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every warning her mother had ever given her flashed in her mind. Don't talk to strangers. Don't stop in the alley. Keep your head down and keep moving. She took another step toward her building's back door. She heard it again. A whimper, followed by a cough so small it barely made a sound. Kate's grandfather's voice was quieter than her mother's, but stronger. "You never ever leave a man behind, Katie, no matter what." General Jack Sullivan had been dead for 5 years, but his voice was clearer to Kate than the rain. He was a hero. His duty, his code, was the only inheritance he had left them. She turned. "Hello?" she called out. Her voice sounded small. The sound came from behind the largest dumpster, the one that always smelled like rotten food. She edged closer, peering into the deep shadow. She saw him. He was tiny. He was curled into a tight ball, his knees tucked to his chest, his arms wrapped around his head. He looked to be about 7, maybe 8 years old. He was wearing a little blue jacket, but it was soaked through, dark with rain. His jeans were torn at the knee, and one of his small sneakers had fallen off his foot. It lay in a puddle beside him. He was shaking, a violent, full-body tremor. "Hey," Kate said softly, afraid of scaring him more. "Hey, are you okay?" The boy lifted his head. His face was ghostly pale, his lips a frightening shade of blue. He had a dark, ugly bruise on his temple, just below a mop of dark, matted hair. But it was his eyes that stopped her. They were huge, green and blank. He looked at her, but he did not seem to see her. He just looked lost. I'm cold," he whispered. His teeth were chattering so hard he could barely speak. "Where are your parents?" Kate asked, crouching down. "Are they near?" The boy just shook his head. The small movement seemed to hurt. I don't know. You don't know? I, I can't find them. A tear rolled down his cheek, mixing with the rain. I fell. My head hurts. He looked at her, his eyes suddenly focused. I want my mommy. His voice broke, and a fresh wave of sobs shook his small body. Kate's heart cracked. This was not a runaway. This was a lost child. A lost, hurt child. She knew what she was supposed to do. Run and get her mom, call 911. But she looked at the boy. He was already half gone. The cold was stealing him. She knew about hypothermia. She knew it was fast, especially with someone so small. She thought of her grandfather's medal. It sat in a small, cheap velvet box on her dresser. He had gotten it for pulling two men out of a frozen river. It's a thief, Katie, he'd told her. The cold. It steals the fight right out of you. This little boy had no fight left. Okay, Kate said, her voice changing. It was firm now. Okay, we're not staying here. She touched his shoulder. He flinched, but she kept her hand there. My name is Kate. I'm going to help you. I'm Ben, he whispered. I think. Okay, Ben. We're going to go to my apartment. It's right here. It's warm. I can't walk, he cried as he tried to uncurl. I know, Kate said. She stuffed the milk carton into her jacket pocket. She grabbed his small, discarded sneaker. You don't have to. She slid one arm under his back and the other under his knees. He was light. Terrifyingly light. He weighed almost nothing. He whimpered as she lifted him, his body stiff and cold, but he didn't fight. He buried his wet, freezing face against her neck. It's okay, Kate whispered, her own voice shaking as she held him tight. I've got you. I've got you. She carried him the 50 feet to the building's back door. The wind tried to push her back, but she leaned into it, shielding the boy's body with her own. She kicked the broken steel door open and hurried into the dim, fluorescent-lit hallway. It smelled like old cooking oil and damp carpet, but it was out of the wind. Ben gave a low, shivering sigh. Stairs, she whispered to him. We can't take the elevator. Mrs. Petrov is on duty tonight. She'll see. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor. It was the hardest climb of Kate's life. Her arms burned. Ben was light, but he was a dead weight. His head rested on her shoulder. She could feel his breath, small and rattling. On the 2nd floor landing, she had to stop, her legs shaking. Just a little more, Ben, she panted. We're almost there. She fumbled with her key at apartment 3B. The lock was sticky. Come on, come on. The door clicked open. She pushed it open with her foot and stumbled inside, slamming it shut with her hip. She locked the deadbolt. For a full minute, she just stood in the tiny entryway, dripping on the mat, the small boy held tight in her arms. The apartment was quiet. Her mom was still at work. Okay, Kate breathed. Okay, we're safe. The apartment was small. A tiny kitchen, a living room that was also her mother's bedroom, and Kate's own room. A space barely larger than a closet sectioned off by a curtain. But it was clean, and it was warm. Ben's shaking was getting worse in the warm air, which she knew was a bad sign. My room, Kate said, carrying him past the couch. She pushed aside the curtain to her small sanctuary. The walls were covered in old posters of places she wanted to see. Her grandfather's folded flag and his medal sat on her small dresser. She gently set Ben on her single bed, pulling her comforter around him. He immediately curled back into a ball. You need to get out of these clothes, Kate said. She tried to sound practical, like her mother. You'll get sick. I mean, sicker. He was too weak. He just looked at her, his eyes huge. Kate's heart twisted. She went to her dresser. In the bottom drawer, under her own sweaters, was her grandfather's old army-issue sweatshirt. It was thick and warm. Here, she said. She was as gentle as she could be. She peeled off his soaked jacket, his thin t-shirt, his jeans, and his one remaining sneaker. His skin was mottled and icy. She pulled the giant sweatshirt over his head. It swallowed him. The sleeves hung a foot past his hands, and the hem fell to his knees. He looked like a little ghost. She tucked him back under her comforter. "I'll get you a towel," she said. She ran to the bathroom, grabbing the one clean towel they had. Her heart was a trapped bird. "What have I done?" she thought. "I brought a strange kid into my house. Mom is going to kill me. She's going to lose her job." Her mother, Sharon, worked as a maid. She worked for a very, very rich family on the other side of town, the Carters. Sharon was always worried about appearances, always worried about bringing trouble home, and Kate had just brought home a very small, very sick, very big problem. She went back to her room. Ben was awake, but barely. She gently dried his hair, her fingers finding the swollen bruise on his temple. He hissed in pain. "Sorry," she whispered. Where am I?" he mumbled, his voice muffled by the blanket. "You're in my room," Kate said. "You're safe. I want my mommy," he cried, his voice small. "I want to go home." "I know," Kate said, her throat tight. "Where is home? Do you know your address? Or your mom's phone number?" He looked at her, and his face crumpled in confusion. I don't know." "It's okay," Kate said quickly, seeing his panic. "It's okay, you hit your head. It's just mixed up. It'll come back." She went to the kitchen and looked at her handiwork, his small, wet clothes. They were expensive. The jacket had a small, embroidered logo she'd seen on kids at the downtown schools. This was not a neighborhood kid. She stuffed his clothes into a plastic grocery bag and shoved it deep into the bottom of the kitchen trash can. She put the milk in the fridge, her errand from a lifetime ago. She looked at the clock. 5:45 p.m. Her mom came home at 7. She went back to her room. Ben was staring at the framed photo on her nightstand. Kate, age 10, on her grandfather's lap. "Is that your dad?" he whispered. "My grandfather," Kate said. "Are you hungry?" He nodded, a small, jerky motion. The pantry was bare. Crackers, half a loaf of bread, peanut butter. She made a peanut butter sandwich and cut the crusts off, the way she used to like. She poured a small glass of the milk she had just bought. It was the best she could do. She brought it to him. He was so weak he could barely sit up. She had to prop her pillow behind him. He held the sandwich in his tiny, pale hands and ate it slowly, as if chewing was hard work. He drank the milk. "Thank you," he said. "Do you want another one?" He nodded. She made him another, and he ate that too. When he was done, a little color had returned to his face. He wasn't blue anymore. His shivering had slowed. "My head hurts," he said, touching the bruise. Kate got the first aid kit. She dabbed at the scrape. He didn't even flinch this time. "How did you get lost, Ben?" she asked softly. I don't remember." He stared at her blanket. "I remember a car, a black car, and a man. A man was yelling." His breath hitched. He grabbed me. I got away. I ran. I ran." He looked up at her, his green eyes filling with tears. He was going to take me." Kate's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a lost boy. He was running from someone. The clock in the kitchen ticked loudly. 6:30 p.m. "My mom," Kate said, her anxiety spiking. "She'll be home soon. You have to be quiet. You have to hide." "Hide," he whispered, his eyes wide with new fear. "From your mom?" "No, she'll be scared," Kate said. "You have to stay in here. You have to be completely quiet, like a secret. Can you do that?" He nodded. "I'm good at being quiet." That sentence hurt Kate more than anything else. "Okay," she said. "Just go to sleep. You're safe in here, I promise." She pulled the curtain closed, leaving him in the small, warm darkness of her room. She went to the living room and turned on the small television, keeping the volume low. She sat on the couch, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs, and waited for her mother to come home. Kate sat on the worn, floral-patterned couch. It was her mother's bed, but it wouldn't be for another 30 minutes. The small television in the corner was on, but the volume was turned so low it was just a murmur. A local news anchor was talking about the storm. Flooding on the parkway, downed power lines in the suburbs. Kate was not listening. Her ears were tuned to a different frequency. She was listening for the sound of her mother's key in the lock, and she was listening for any sound from behind the curtain of her room. The apartment was filled with a terrible, loud silence. Kate got up. She couldn't sit still. She walked the few steps to the kitchen and looked at the clock. 6:45 p.m. 15 minutes. Her mother's routine was exact. At 6:55 p.m., she would get off the 14 bus at the corner. She would walk the 2 blocks. At 7 p.m., her key would slide into the lock. Kate tiptoed to her curtain and peeked in. Ben was asleep. He was curled on his side, his small body lost in the folds of her grandfather's huge sweatshirt. His breathing was quiet, but it was fast, too fast. She gently laid the back of her hand against his forehead, just as her mom used to do for her. He was burning up. The fever was worse. A knot of panic tightened in Kate's stomach. This was more than a peanut butter sandwich could fix. He needed medicine. He needed a doctor. And she had him hidden in her closet-sized bedroom. "You're okay, Ben," she whispered. She didn't know if she was talking to him or to herself. "You're safe." She looked at her grandfather's medal sitting on the dresser. It caught the dim light from the living room. "It's about what's right, Katie. Not what's easy." This was not easy. She went back to the living room. She thought about the man Ben said he was running from. "He grabbed me." Kate went to the front door and checked the deadbolt. It was locked. She slid the chain across. It was a flimsy, cheap chain, but it made her feel a little better. 6:59 p.m. Kate held her breath. The sound came, right on time, the scratch of a key in the lock. The door opened, and Sharon Sullivan entered. Sharon was a woman who looked like she was being held together by pure will. Her dark blonde hair, the same color as Kate's, was pulled back in a tight, tired bun. She wore her work uniform, a plain black polo shirt and black pants. She carried a thin coat over one arm and a plastic lunch bag in her other hand. She was not a large woman, but she filled the room with an energy of pure exhaustion. "Hey, baby," Sharon said. Her voice was flat. She was already unlacing her shoes. "This weather. It's a nightmare. The bus was 10 minutes late." "Hey, Mom," Kate said. Her voice came out as a squeak. Sharon stopped. She looked up at Kate. A mother knows. She knows when something is wrong. "What?" Sharon asked. "Nothing," Kate said too quickly. How was work?" "The Carters," Sharon said, rubbing her neck. "It was fine. Mrs. Carter was in a state, yelling at everyone. Mr. Carter was locked in his office as usual. Just a day." She walked past Kate into the kitchen. She saw the milk in the fridge. "Oh, you got the milk. Thank you, honey, you're a lifesaver." Sharon poured herself a glass of water, her back to Kate. "Mr. Henderson didn't overcharge you, did he?" "No, Mom." Sharon drank the water in one long, desperate gulp. She closed her eyes. "Okay, I'm going to put my feet up for 5 minutes, and then I'll make us some pasta." "Mom, wait," Kate started. But Sharon was already walking to the living room. She was unbuttoning her polo shirt, ready to change. She stopped. Kate's curtain. It was drawn, but it had just moved. A small twitch. Sharon froze. She looked at Kate. Kate's face was pale. "Kate," Sharon said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Who is in your room?" "Mom, I can explain." "Who is in my house, Kate?" Sharon's tiredness was gone. In its place was a sharp, cold fear. She thought of gangs. She thought of boyfriends. She thought of all the trouble she worked so hard to keep away. "Mom, please, just let me—" Sharon did not wait. She moved fast. She crossed the room in 2 strides and yanked the curtain back. Her hand flew to her mouth. Ben was there, huddled on the bed. The sudden motion had woken him. He stared at Sharon with huge, terrified, fever-bright eyes. "Oh my God," Sharon breathed. "Kate, what have you done?" She was not angry. She was terrified. "Who is that?" Sharon whispered, pulling Kate back into the living room, as if the boy could hear. "Where did you get him? Is he one of those kids from the corner? Are you in trouble?" "No," Kate said, her own voice rising. "Mom, he was in the alley. Behind the dumpster, he was freezing. He was going to die in the rain." "The alley?" Sharon looked like she might faint. "We don't. Kate, you don't do that. You don't bring the alley into this house. You call the police. You call me. You don't bring him in." "He's sick, Mom. He's just a little kid. He's 7 or 8. He's lost." "Lost? Or—" Sharon looked back at the boy. He was wearing Kate's grandfather's sweatshirt. "Oh, Kate, we can't. We can't." Sharon's eyes were frantic. She was thinking of her job. She was thinking of the Carters. Her employment contract was strict. No police, no trouble, no drama. She was the invisible help. If she became visible, she was gone. "He has a fever," Kate pleaded. "He's hurt. He hit his head." "We'll call 911, Sharon said, moving toward the phone. "We'll tell them we found him, right now." "No," Kate said, grabbing her arm. "Mom, you can't." "What do you mean I can't?" "He's scared," Kate said, her voice dropping. He said a man was yelling, a man in a black car. He said he was running from him. He said the man grabbed him." Sharon's hand stopped. She understood the meaning kidnapped. "He doesn't remember anything, Mom," Kate rushed on. "Just his name, Ben. He doesn't know his address or his mom's number. If we call the police, what if that man is looking for him? What if they don't believe us? Look at where we live." Sharon looked around her tiny, clean but crumbling apartment. She knew exactly what the police thought of people who lived in this building. She was trapped between her daughter's impossible compassion and the hard reality of the world. She walked slowly back to Kate's room. Ben was watching her, his small body shaking. Sharon was not a soft woman. Life had filed away her soft edges. But now, she looked at the small, sick child. She reached out a work-roughened hand and felt his forehead. "He's burning up," she whispered. The practicality in her took over. "He needs medicine." "What do we do?" Kate asked. Sharon looked at Kate. She looked at the boy. She closed her eyes. She was calculating. The risk of calling the police. The risk of not calling. It was in that moment of silence that the television broke in. The murmur of the local news was interrupted by a sharp, important tone. "We interrupt this program for a special report," the anchor's voice said. Kate and Sharon both turned. "We have breaking news," the anchor said. His face was grave. "An Amber Alert has just been issued for a child in the metropolitan area." A photo appeared on the screen. It was not a school photo. It was a candid shot. A small, smiling boy with dark hair and bright green eyes, sitting on a horse. Kate and Sharon looked at the screen. They looked at the boy in the bed. It was the same boy. "The child is 7-year-old Benjamin Carter," the anchor said. "He is the son of billionaire financier Michael Carter. He was last seen this afternoon near his home in the Crestview Hills." Kate felt the blood drain from her face. Sharon sank onto the couch. She was holding her chest. "Carter," Sharon whispered. "His name is Benjamin Carter." She looked at her daughter in pure, cold dread. "Kate," she said, her voice barely a breath. "That's not just any boy. That is the boss's son." The silence in the apartment was heavier and more dangerous than the storm outside. The news anchor on the small television was still talking. Again, the missing child is 7-year-old Benjamin Carter. Police have set up a perimeter around the Crestview Hills estate. They are asking anyone with any information to call the tip line immediately. A phone number flashed on the screen. Sharon Sullivan stared at it. She looked at the cheap phone on her kitchen wall. It felt like a bomb. "Mom?" Kate's voice was a whisper. "Mom, what do we do?" Sharon stood up. She walked to the television and pressed the power button. The screen went black. The anchor's voice was silenced. We have to call," Sharon said. Her voice was thin. She was talking to herself. "We have to call that number." "No!" Kate said, moving in front of her. "Mom, listen to me. You heard what Ben said. He was running. Someone grabbed him. What if we call and the police, they just take him? What if the man who took him is still out there?" "Kate, that is the son of Michael Carter," Sharon finally snapped. Her voice was a terrified hiss. "I clean his floors. I dust his statues. Do you know what a man like that does to people who cross him?" "He's just a little boy," Kate pleaded. "We can't just—" "They will think we took him," Sharon said, her eyes wide with a terror Kate had never seen before. "They will, Kate. They will see us, this apartment, where we live, and they will decide we did it. They'll say we were waiting for a ransom. They will destroy us." Sharon was pacing the tiny living room, 4 steps one way, 4 steps back. "They will take you away from me," she whispered. That was the real fear. That was the nerve. Before Kate could answer, a new sound came from her bedroom, a small, high-pitched moan. They both froze. "Ben," Kate breathed. They rushed back to the curtain. Ben was no longer curled up. He was thrashing, his small legs kicking at the comforter. His eyes were squeezed shut. "No," he muttered. "No, please. It's dark." "He's delirious," Sharon said, her panic instantly replaced by a different kind of urgency. She was a mother. She knew what a high fever looked like. She put her hand on his forehead. "He's burning. He's on fire. Kate, get me a wet cloth, now." Kate ran to the bathroom. She heard her mother's voice, suddenly calm and low, the voice she used when Kate herself was sick. "It's okay, sweetheart," Sharon was murmuring to the boy. "You're all right. It's just a fever. You're safe." Kate came back with a washcloth, dripping with cold water. Sharon took it, wrung it out, and gently laid it on Ben's forehead. Ben sighed. His thrashing slowed. He was still asleep, but it was a bad, restless sleep. "He needs medicine," Sharon said. "He needs a doctor." "We can't take him to a hospital," Kate said, the awful logic dawning on her. "They would ask questions. They would see his face." "I know," Sharon said. "We need to get the fever down. I don't have any children's medicine." "I used the last of it when I had the flu," Kate said, her stomach twisting. "Okay." Sharon stood up. Her spine was straight. "Okay. I'm going to the store. Mr. Henderson is open until 9. I'll get children's Tylenol, and a thermometer, and maybe some juice." "Mom, the storm." "I don't care about the storm." Sharon went to the door and grabbed her thin, still damp coat. "Kate, you lock this door behind me. You slide the chain. You do not open it. For anyone. Do you hear me? Not for the police, not for the neighbors, not if the building is on fire. No one." "Mom, I'm scared," Kate admitted. "So am I," Sharon said, her hand on the doorknob. "But that little boy is sicker than we are. I'll be back in 10 minutes. The door clicked shut. Kate heard her mother's fast footsteps retreating down the hall. She ran to the door and slid the chain. She turned the deadbolt. She was alone. The apartment felt huge and empty. The only sound was the wind howling against the old windows, and Ben's breathing. It was shallow. Kate went back to her room. She sat on the edge of the bed, dipping the cloth in the bowl of water, cooling his head. He looked so small in her bed. He was not a Carter. He was just a little boy who was lost. Kate's eyes went to the dresser, to the small, cheap velvet box. She picked it up. She opened it. The metal was heavy. It was a simple bronze star. Her grandfather had never, ever talked about the battle where he'd earned it. He only talked about the why we were pinned down, Katie. 2 men fell in the river. It was frozen. The air, it was so cold it hurt to breathe. The captain said to leave them. He said it was a tactical loss. He had looked at her, his old gray eyes sharp. They were not a loss, Katie. They were men. So I went. I pulled them out. The captain wanted me court-martialed. A week later, the general gave me this why 10-year-old Kate had asked. Because it's the code. You don't leave them, ever. No matter what the captain says. You do what's right, not what you're told. Kate closed her hand around the metal. It was cool and solid. She finally understood. Her mother was afraid of the captain. She was afraid of Michael Carter. She was afraid of the police. But Kate was her grandfather's girl. She looked at Ben. He was one of her men, fallen in the river, and she was not going to leave him. It's okay, Ben, she whispered, refreshing the cloth. I've got you. I'm not going to let them get you. Ben's eyes fluttered. He looked at her. For a second, she thought he was awake. He was looking right at her. The coat, he whispered. What, Ben? Are you cold? The black coat, he mumbled, his eyes slipping closed again. He was in the house. He knew my name. Kate's blood turned to ice. He said, Be a good boy, Ben. We're going to play a game. A tear slid from the corner of his eye into his damp hair. I didn't want to play. He lapsed back into the fever sleep. Kate sat there, frozen. He was in the house. This wasn't a stranger. This wasn't a random snatching from the street. The man who took him, he was inside the Carter mansion. The rain was stinging. It was mixed with sleet now. Sharon Sullivan kept her head down, her plastic-soled shoes slipping on the wet pavement. Her mind was a storm of its own. What do I do? What do I do? She knew the Carters. She'd worked in their house for 3 years. She knew Mr. Carter, a man who spoke in low, hard sentences, a man who expected the world to bend to him, and it always did. She knew Mrs. Carter, Eleanor. A woman so thin she looked like a bird, always planning a party, always complaining about the staff, always looking right through Sharon as if she were a ghost, and she knew Benjamin. She'd seen him in the halls, a quiet, polite little boy, always followed by a nanny. He was the only soft thing in that entire marble and glass house, and now he was in her apartment, on her daughter's bed. She reached Mr. Henderson's corner store. The bell on the door gave a weak jingle. Mr. Henderson was behind the counter, a small, grainy television turned to the news the Amber Alert was on. Terrible, isn't it? Mr. Henderson said as she grabbed the medicine. He was a kind man, but he was a gossip. Just awful, Sharon said, her voice tight. That and a bottle of water, and a thermometer, if you have one. That poor family, he said, bagging her items. All that money. You'd think they could keep one little boy safe. Sharon paid, her hands shaking so hard she dropped a quarter. You okay, Sharon? He asked, his eyes narrowing in concern. You look pale. Just the storm, she said, grabbing the bag. And the news. It's upsetting. Good night, Mr. Henderson. She ran back through the rain. She was not just a maid, she was a mother, and her daughter, her Kate, had done something so brave and so stupid that it could end their whole lives. They will think we took him. The thought circled. A vulture. They would say Sharon, the maid, had an inside track. She knew the layout. She knew the schedules. She would be the perfect suspect. She ran up the 3 flights of stairs, her lungs burning. She fumbled for her key. The door was locked. Chained. She knocked. The special knock. Shaven a haircut. The chain rattled. The door opened. Kate pulled her inside. Is he? He's worse, Mom, Kate said, her face grim. He's talking. Delirious. Sharon pushed past her. He said the man was in the house. He said he knew his name. Sharon stopped. Every drop of blood left her face. This was not a kidnapping. This was something else. This was inside. She looked at Kate. She looked at the sick boy. The time for panic was over. Okay, Sharon said, her voice hard. Okay, we get the fever down, we wait for him to sleep. And then we call the police? Kate asked. No, Sharon said. She was unwrapping the thermometer. We can't. If the man was in the house, he could be anyone. He could be one of the staff. He could be family. She put the thermometer in Ben's ear. It beeped. 103.4, she read. My God. She uncapped the purple liquid medicine. Help me sit him up, Kate. They managed to get Ben sitting. He was limp, a dead weight. Ben, Sharon said, her voice firm but kind. Ben, sweetheart, you need to drink this. It's medicine. It'll make you feel better. He coughed and sputtered, but he swallowed it. They laid him back down. Sharon bathed his face, his neck. We wait, Sharon said, her voice low. We wait for the medicine to work. We sit with him. We make sure he's safe. And in the morning? Kate asked. Sharon looked at her daughter. She saw the general in her, that stubborn, foolish, honorable chin. In the morning, Sharon said, I'm not calling the police. What? The police won't believe us, but I know who might. She took a deep breath. The head of Mr. Carter's security, Frank Costello. He's fair. He's ex-military. He's not like the others. He'll understand. Will he, Mom? He'll understand a soldier, Sharon said, looking at the medal in Kate's hand. And he'll understand a mother. We just have to keep this boy safe until dawn. The storm had passed. The wind no longer screamed. The rain had softened to a weak, dripping sound outside the window. Inside apartment 3B, the night was long and heavy. The air was thick with the smell of wet wool and the faint, sweet scent of the children's medicine. It was 3 a.m. Sharon and Kate sat in the living room. The door to Kate's room was open. The curtain was pulled back. They could both see Ben. The medicine had worked for a time. The fever had dropped from 103.4 to 102. Ben had settled. But now, hours later, it was climbing again. He's shivering, Kate whispered. She sat on the floor, her back against the couch, her eyes fixed on the small lump in her bed. It's the fever, Sharon said. She was at the kitchen sink, wringing out the washcloth again. It's fighting the medicine. She went back to the bed. Ben was restless. He was muttering in his sleep. No. Stop. It's too dark, he mumbled. It's okay, sweetheart, Sharon murmured, laying the cool cloth on his forehead. You're all right. You're just fine. She sat on the edge of the bed. She was exhausted, but she was not tired. The fear had sharpened her. She was a mother protecting a child. It didn't matter that he wasn't her child. Kate watched her mom. She had seen her mother tired. She had seen her angry. She had seen her sad. But she had never seen her like this. She was a soldier on watch. Mom, Kate said, her voice small in the quiet, Are you scared of Mr. Carter? Sharon let out a breath. It was not a laugh. It was just air. I'm scared of what he is, she said. I'm scared of men who can buy the world. When you have that much money, you don't hear no. You don't see the people who clean your floors. We're just ghosts. She looked at her hands, red and chapped from work. He would look at us. He would see this apartment, and he would believe we did this. But we didn't, Kate said. It doesn't matter what's true, Sharon said, her voice hard. It only matters what he believes is true. She looked at Kate. But you did the right thing. You did what your grandfather would have done. You didn't think about the cost, you just acted. I was so scared, Mom, Kate admitted. I know. A small voice broke the silence. Kate? Both of them turned. Ben was awake. His green eyes were open. They were still bright with fever, but they were clear. He was looking at Kate. Hey, Kate said, scrambling to her knees by the bed. Hey, Ben, You're awake. I'm thirsty, he whispered. Sharon was already in the kitchen, pouring a small glass of water. She helped Ben sit up, his small body so weak. He drank the water slowly. I had a bad dream, he said. It's okay, Kate said. It was just the fever. Is Mister still here? Ben asked, his voice cracking. Sharon and Kate looked at each other. Who, Ben? Sharon asked, her voice calm. Who is Mister? Mr. William, Ben said. His eyes were wide. He said we were playing a game, hide and seek. He said I had to be very quiet or they would find me. He looked at Sharon. He smelled funny, like Daddy's brown water. Sharon's hand tightened on the glass. Whiskey. He told me to get in the car, Ben whispered. But he fell down, and I was scared. And I ran. I just ran. Sharon stood up. She walked to the kitchen, her movements stiff. She knew Mr. William. Mom? Kate followed her. William Carter, Sharon said, her voice so low Kate could barely hear it. It's Mr. Carter's younger brother, the one who has problems. He's always asking for money. He was at the house yesterday. I saw him. Her eyes were filled with a new, colder dread. He took his own nephew? Kate was horrified. He took him to play a game, Sharon said. He was drunk. He lost him. He probably doesn't even remember where. She leaned on the kitchen counter. The whole plan. The police. It was all wrong. Mom, this changes everything, Kate said. Yes, Sharon said. It does. We can't call Frank Costello. We can't tell him the truth. He won't believe us. He'll think we're lying, trying to hurt the family. They will bury us, Kate. Ben had fallen back asleep. His fever, having had its say, was finally breaking. His forehead was damp with sweat. The long, terrible night was almost over, and the morning was going to be worse. The sun did not rise. The sky just turned from black to a watery, sick gray. It was 5:30 a.m. Sharon Sullivan stood at her closet. She took out her clean, pressed work uniform. She began to get dressed. Mom, what are you doing? Kate was on the couch, not having slept. I'm going to work, Sharon said. Her voice was flat, empty. What? You can't. Kate stood up. What about Ben? What about Frank Costello? There is no Frank Costello, Sharon said, pulling her hair back into a tight, severe bun. That plan is gone. We are on our own. So what are we going to do? I'm going to work. I am going to walk into that house. I am going to pretend I know nothing. And Ben? Kate motioned to her room, where the boy was finally sleeping a deep, healing sleep. He can't stay here, Sharon said, her voice breaking. I'll take him to the hospital. A different one, on the east side. I'll leave him there. I'll tell them I found him. No, Kate said. Mom, no, that's abandoning him. That's what you were afraid other people would do. We have no choice, Sharon yelled, her control finally snapping. She was crying tears of pure, terrified rage. They have taken all my choices, that family. I clean their toilets, I wash their sheets, and they get to do this? They get to break the world and not even notice? She grabbed her thin coat. I am going to work. Kate, you stay here. You watch him. I have to think. She was at the door. Kate ran to her. Mom, please don't go. We can call that news number, the tip line, anonymously. And have them trace the call to this building? To the maid's apartment? No. The door opened. Sharon looked at her daughter. She looked broken. Lock the door behind me, she said. The door clicked shut. Kate was alone. She was 15 years old, and she was alone with the biggest secret in the city. She looked at her room. Ben was safe. For now. She looked at the dresser. The bronze star. You do what's right, not what you're told. Her mother had told her to wait, to do nothing. Kate looked at the phone on the wall. Her mother's plan was built on fear. Her grandfather's code was built on courage. Kate knew what she had to do. She was not going to call the police. She was not going to call the news. She was going to call the one person who would understand. She was going to call the soldier. Sharon's hands were shaking so hard she could barely get her bus pass out of her wallet. She sat at the bus stop, the cold morning air biting her face. She felt sick. She had run. She had left her daughter to handle a mess she couldn't fix. The bus pulled up. She was about to step on. Her phone, a cheap flip phone, vibrated in her pocket. It was a text. It was from Kate. "Don't go. Come back. I found Frank Costello's number. It was on your work emergency list. I called him. He's coming here." Sharon's blood ran cold. "No, no, no," she whispered. She didn't get on the bus. She turned and ran. She ran the 2 blocks back to her apartment, her lungs on fire. She didn't care who saw. She burst up the stairs. A black SUV, sleek and official, was parked at the curb. Not a police car, a private security car. She ran into the lobby. 2 men in dark suits stood by the broken elevator. They didn't stop her. They were waiting for her. She ran down the hall to 3B. The door was open. She saw him. Frank Costello. He was a tall man, built like a block of granite. He had a hard face and ex-military eyes. He was standing in her living room, looking around. Kate was standing by her bedroom curtain, her arms crossed. She was terrified, but she was not backing down. Ben was awake, sitting on the bed, holding her grandfather's bronze star. "Mrs. Sullivan," Frank said. His voice was a low rumble. I can explain," Sharon panted. "Your daughter already did," Frank said. "She's very clear." He looked at Kate. "You're sure? About what he said?" "He said, 'Mr. William,'" Kate said, her voice shaking but firm. "He said he smelled like whiskey. He said they were playing hide and seek." Frank Costello's face did not change, but his eyes got colder. He had been listening to William Carter's lies for the past 12 hours. He had been listening to him help with the search. "I see," Frank said. He turned to Sharon. "Your daughter is very brave and very foolish. She's also right." He looked at Ben. His hard face softened. "Hey, Ben," he said, walking into the small room. Ben looked up. He smiled. "Frank, you found me." "No, boss," Frank said, his voice thick. "She found you." He crouched down. "Kate found you, and she kept you safe." Frank looked at the bronze star in Ben's hand. "Where did you get that?" "It's Kate's," Ben said. "She said her grandfather was a hero. He saved people." Frank looked at Kate. "He'd be proud of you, kid." What happens now?" Sharon whispered. "Now," Frank said, standing up. "I take Ben home, and we take care of the problem." My job," Sharon said. Frank looked at her. "You have my word, Mrs. Sullivan. You and your daughter will be safe. Your job is safe. You saw nothing. You know nothing. This was an act of God. Understood?" Sharon nodded. Frank gently scooped up Ben, who was almost asleep again. "And you," he said to Kate. "You did well. You did what no one else could." He paused at the door. "That medal. My father had one of those. Army, 101st Airborne." 82nd, Kate said. Frank nodded. "A real soldier." He walked out. The men in the hall fell in step. The door to the apartment closed. The apartment was silent. The black SUV pulled away. Kate and Sharon stood in the living room. It was over. "Oh, baby," Sharon said, and she pulled Kate into her arms, holding her so tight it hurt. "My brave, stupid girl." Kate held her mother. "It's okay, Mom. It's okay." I was going to leave him," Sharon cried. "I was so scared." "But you didn't," Kate said. "You came back." They stood there for a long time. The next day, the news reported that Benjamin Carter had been found. He had wandered off and was found disoriented by a Good Samaritan. The family requested privacy. A day after that, the news reported that William Carter had been sent to an exclusive wellness retreat overseas. Life for Kate and Sharon went on, but it was different. 2 weeks later, a black car pulled up. Not an SUV, a town car. Frank Costello got out. He came up to apartment 3B. He was not in a suit. He was in a simple polo shirt. He held a small, new velvet box. Mr. Carter wanted you to have this, he said. Sharon started to say, "We can't." "It's not money," Frank said quickly. He opened the box. Inside, resting on the velvet, was Kate's grandfather's bronze star. And next to it, pinned to the velvet, was a small gold pin. A shield. It's the insignia for Mr. Carter's company," Sharon said. "It's the pin from his security team," Frank corrected her. "The medal. Ben wouldn't let it go. He gave it to his father, Mr. Carter. He doesn't understand honor, but he understands power. And that medal, he understood it. He had it cleaned." He handed the box to Kate. "He also set up a fund," Frank said quietly, not looking at them. "A scholarship. It's called the General's Fund. It will pay for your entire education, Kate. College, anything you want." He said the world needs more generals. Kate looked at the medal. It was clean. It shone. "Thank you," she whispered. Frank nodded. Then he turned to Sharon. She tensed, as if expecting a final bad instruction. "Mrs. Sullivan," Frank said, "there is one more thing." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a simple, plain business card. "My security firm. We're expanding. I need someone at the main office to run logistics and scheduling." Sharon just stared at him. I don't understand." "It's an office manager position," Frank said, his voice matter-of-fact. "The pay is double what you're making at the Carter estate. Full medical, dental, and a real pension. I need someone who can handle a crisis. Someone who has integrity and doesn't panic when the world is ending." He held out the card. "It's not a handout, Mrs. Sullivan. It's a job offer. I only hire people I'd trust with my life. And after the last 2 weeks, I'd trust you." Sharon looked at the card. She looked at her hands, red and chapped from years of cleaning. Then she looked back at Frank. For the first time, she let out a small, trembling smile. She took the card. "When?" she said, her voice shaking just a little. "Do I start?" "Monday," Frank said, allowing a small smile of his own. "Welcome to the team." He nodded at Kate. "Take care of that medal, kid." He left. Kate and Sharon were alone again. Kate put the box on her dresser. She looked at her mom, who was still staring at the small, white business card. "Mom?" Kate asked. Sharon let out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for 15 years. She carefully placed the card on the kitchen table. "I'm done," she whispered, more to herself than to Kate. "Done with what?" Sharon looked at her daughter, her eyes clear and bright. "I'm done cleaning other people's houses." Kate went to the window and looked out. The city was still there. The sharp edges, the cold wind, the people who fell. It was all the same, but it wasn't. She looked at her mother, who was making a cup of tea, not like a tired maid, but like a woman about to start her first day. Kate was not on the edge anymore. Neither of them was. They were exactly where they were supposed to be. And that's where we leave Kate and her mother, on the edge of a new life. Whenever we share a story like this, we hope it's a reminder of how one small choice, one act of kindness in the rain, can change everything. What did you think of Kate's decision in that alley? We'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. Maybe you were listening while winding down for the night or just taking a break. Let us know. And if you want to make sure you catch our next story, hitting like and subscribing makes a huge difference. We're always trying to improve, so feel free to share your feedback as well. Thanks for spending this time with us.